All right, buddy. Almost the end of the road here.
Almost the end of the road of just our
not of the
podcast, but just of our residing in the city of Chattanooga. It's May 26th, 2022. Welcome aboard, everybody. This is the Crushing Iron podcast, episode 585.
Okay,
that's a lot. That's a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
And that which means we have 415 left before we retire.
I know.
That's our current goal. We're going to kind of do it like, we're just going to call our shot now and end it at 1,000. So soak them in, embrace them, listen to them as many times as you want to. We'll let them stay out in the ether in about 4 years when we call it a day. Hope you have an awesome day and a great week so far. If it's your first time tuning in, welcome. We appreciate you giving us our time. We know you have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. Your time is valuable, so we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We will do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We will do race previews and also race recaps like we have done the last 2 weeks. Also have on the occasional guest. But for the most part, Mike and I as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through, both personally and training and as coaches. We'll also talk a lot about what our athletes are going through, which we might talk a lot about today. We work with a very wide range of athletes, from beginner level athletes looking to their first sprint or even 5K, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to Kona. And like we said, everyone in between and from all over, not just from the state of Tennessee, but 95% of our athletes are outside of the state of Tennessee. And then we'll reside all over because Mike is about to take up residence in Wisconsin. I'll be heading back to Kansas. And we also have quite a few athletes across the pond. So cheers to those mates. And we'll use the topics that they have and the communication and training peaks, emails, texts, phone calls to drive the topic of the day. We'll also head into our Facebook group, Crushing Iron Group. If you want to be a part of that conversation, just answer one simple question authentically, and we will let you right in. A lot of awesome people in there, great community. It's a lively bunch and experienced too. So in a confusing sport where you can be afraid to ask questions sometimes and get sarcasm or be belittled, not in there because I got a quick hook. But yeah, go in there and be a part of that awesome community. It'll be very supportive, regardless of what distance or experience level you have. So, and oftentimes we'll go in there and do kind of a Q&A or just take the general pulse of the community and have that catapult the discussion. But that's it. We don't do sponsors. We don't do ads, but we do have one agenda, and it's a very important one, and that's to do our best to try and keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Mm-hmm. I do have to clarify something. Are you moving to Kansas or Missouri?
Nothing against people in Missouri, but I wouldn't set foot and live in Missouri. Nothing against it.
Well,
but
you're gonna be there a lot.
So, no, not really. I mean, so I say Kansas. I say Kansas City because that's what people know because what they hear. So
okay.
If you ever been to Missouri and Kansas, like Kansas City is like a stone's throw from Kansas. Like so, when we lived there before. Sometimes I would run into Missouri. Like there's a road called State Line. One side's Kansas, one side's Missouri. So I could leave and run on the Tomahawk Greenway or Tomahawk Trail System, and I could run into Missouri.
Yeah.
But there's a very huge difference in the school systems between Missouri and Kansas. And so we're
there. Yeah.
So we're in Overland Park, Kansas, which is about we're maybe 20 minutes from downtown Kansas City in Missouri, but we are firmly planted into Kansas.
Rock Chalk Jayhawk, man.
Yeah.
You're gonna change your allegiance?
No. But I did tell Hayden I was gonna take him we'll take a roadie over to Lawrence and catch one of the. I've always wanted to go to a college game in there, so we'll try and pick a good game and go in there. It looks like a pretty cool arena.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the legendary college basketball arenas. Now, and also when you're in Kansas City, when you're in Missouri. That's SEC country, buddy.
I know. So it's like I kind of get the best of both worlds. Like the closest game I'll get for the Vols will obviously be Missouri, but
are they still in the SEC?
Columbia's I mean they shouldn't be, but they are. It's only a 2-hour shot from our house, Columbia. So it's really not a bad drive. Columbia is about 2. Yeah, so I should get the Vols
once in a while.
Every other year. But no, we're looking forward to it, excited about it. But yeah, should be some go to a few Chiefs game. You don't care about the NFL, but I think the NFL draft is there next year. Yeah, I know.
It's a bad sign. That's the beginning of the end for a city.
No, it's not. We won't even go. Maybe it was way there to Nashville, but Nashville's been on its way out for a while. You had a topic for today. Unbeknownst to me, you had done some homework. And I came in with it. You had a dry erase board and an outline out and a laser pointer. And I said, "You have anything left?" He said, "Yeah, just this." And then whipped out like this, huge thesis he's been working on for today. And we were already kind of on the same page in terms of, we talk a lot about the technical aspects of training and swim, bike, and run specifics, and we'll do race recaps and previews like we said in the opening. But a lot of times we dive into kind of the more mental and emotional piece of training, because that is kind of the like no matter an athlete's ability, right? Like we all have a common that, like, people talk a lot about, I'm never going to be fast, or I'm never be on the podium, or I want to do this. And so you have such a wide range, right? If you especially look at Ironman times from, even, amateurs, quote unquote, like that are going sub 9 in Ironman, all the way up to 16 hour and 59 minute people who are just barely making the cutoff.
Right.
We all have one thing in common, right? It might not be athletic ability or hours to train or, commitment level or aspirations or whatever it is, but we all have one thing that's very, specific, and that is we're all people right on this planet that are going through shit. And we've always, used the analogy that race day is very much kind of like, like you said in the open or off air, it's kind of our chance to give it a little shove and a little get to life in general and kind of make things our day.
Yeah. Well, last Sunday kind of went back down to, I don't do this all the time, but I really like it when I do. I go back and see the last finishers coming through the chute. And I mean, for me, it's probably much better at an Ironman event because it's late and it's 17, like you said, 16 to 17 hours worth of grinding. But what I like most about it, and since we were VIPs there, we only had to pay like $1,500 to get a wristband, but
yeah, seriously,
or whatever the tent. But anyway, so the VIP thing was right on the finish line, which is really nice because you could just stand there without crowds and stuff. And I just stand there and watch people, and I watch their faces, and I watch their reactions as they come across the finish line. And I swear, I mean, you can almost really see. It's like, I don't know, it's sort of a microcosm for this human struggle that we face. And for just that one moment, it's like we beat it, and then, it's like everybody says, when you finish an Ironman or a tough 70.3 like that, and it's a big struggle, once you get across that finish line, you don't think nothing bothers you at that moment. And to me, that's sort of like enlightenment in a way or something, because it's all gone. You're just in the moment. There's like, it's the epitome of the moment, because probably the whole second half of that run is almost the epitome of the moment, because it's really hard to think about anything else besides your breathing and your pain and stuff like that. But watching this, and you can just see that relief. It's almost like, these silent struggles we all have, and who knows what everybody's thinking, but you can tell that something's going on there. It was like they overcame and beat something. It got through a really hard thing. And I think for me, that's the epitome of why we do these things, because doing hard things, you always ask yourself, why on earth? And people always ask me, why on earth do you do that kind of thing? And a lot of times I don't really have a clear answer, but I think for the most part, it's just because, it's just something you want to test, you want to push yourself, and I think doing hard things is really the way to live, and it's like one of the Zen parables I just read too. There's about an old man who was working in the fields into his 80s and 90s and everything like that, and the young kids felt sorry for him because he should relax and enjoy his life and kick back and whatever. So they decided they were going to take his tools and hide them, as a favor to the guy. And the old man walked into his hut, locked the door, and didn't come out for 3 days. He didn't eat or do anything for 3 days. And they're like, hey, what's wrong in there? And they brought his tools back out, and he came back out like nothing was going on. He just started working his ass off again and started eating again. And at the end, the guy said, no work, no food. So I love shit like that. Yeah, but I think it makes sense, because we were talking about how great I slept over, those 2 long days at the booth and whatever. And some days you don't really, we're all sitting around at a desk. You don't really exert a lot of energy. So I think, training in the best way kind of, makes you or helps you deserve your sleep, and you take it better and things like that. So I think no work, no food, man.
No work, no food. No, I mean, I've always, it's been always been fascinating for me to watch finish lines or at fulls or marathons or whatever it is, and just see the raw emotion from people, and you can see it in their face and in the opportunities that we have to do this. And I think that's one of those things that's why, we should always race when we're able, regardless of fitness, because you don't know when you'll be able to get it back again. But in more of an appreciation that we have an outlet, right? To be able to, because listen, like I think everybody has used training or focusing on a race to deal with life, right? In one way, shape, or another, with stress, with grief, with trauma, with, uncertainty. I mean, we've seen it a ton, like in the last 3 years. And while training in triathlon shouldn't be what you use to kind of, submerge your thoughts and feelings, it should be something that helps it release, right? And actually come out, not, it shouldn't be that you're beating your feelings down with a hammer to being more in denial and never deal with them ever again, right? And obsess about it. But what it should be doing is kind of like, unopening the package and letting it flow, right? And people shed tears a lot when they go on runs, or you see it in the finish line, right? People just kind of lose it. They've expressing yourself in a physical manner kind of allows us to stop the suppression that is our life, right? And there's so much, and there's just a whole lot of pain and stress and hurt in so many people's lives right now. You and I have a very, unique, job in that, we have the pleasure and also sometimes the pain of being able to read through, because the athletes that we work with, we use Training Peaks as a platform. They have these post-activity comments, but they're not just for us, right? As coaches, they're mostly there for the athlete, and the athletes kind of use that as their safe space to not only talk about training, but to talk about life and what's going on. And so as a coach, you can't just assume that it's not about training or it is about training. You have to kind of sometimes read through a 3-paragraph tearjerker to get to one, how the workout go, but B, more importantly, how's the person doing? And it's a lot. It is a whole lot to take in and to read and consume. And we mentioned this in our weekly email, and just kind of highlighted the fact that, there's a lot of people out there that aren't okay, right now, or that haven't been okay in the last year. I mean, there's been plenty of times I haven't been okay in the last year.
Really?
I know. Yeah. I mean, like, you and I both had periods, I think,
we're
of
good
like
at stuffing it.
Yeah, we are very good at stuffing it. But, I think people would be fascinated or maybe shocked to hear that, two guys that put on a podcast, or that, that's listened to by 7 people, or can meet all these people at the expo like we did, or that work with the team that's so big, can go through periods of feeling lonely and isolated, right? It's like, because what we do is so confined to the chairs that we sit in and the computer that we sit behind, right? And that's why we get so much value and so much from I'm not a huge extrovert, but like how fulfilled I got and how much I enjoyed doing the expo and meeting people face to face and getting that connection. We all struggle, and it's become so, I don't want to say popular or mainstream, but so wildly accepted for us to just like stuff our lives full of meaningless shit to forget that we're in pain, or to pretend like we're okay, and that it's okay to not be okay. And it's even more okay and encouraged to tell people that you're not, right? Like there is an athlete that commented in Training Peaks a few weeks, or last week, I read it on Sunday, which is kind of one of the reasons that I got into this thought process of writing the email was, and they said, I actually called an emergency session with one of my therapists, and I just said, and then they talked about training, and I just said, first and foremost, all training aside, I'm super proud of you, and I applaud you for making that step to do that and take care of yourself. Like most people don't do that, right? what? Ask for help? No, I got this. Right. You know, like, you know, you and I both do the same shit. Like, you know, it's like, we need people and you and I both, we talked about it before we went on air, is like, you know, the weekend itself was a huge highlight for our team athletically with, you know, performances and whatever. But then last night we had one of our athletes kind of post on our closed active athlete group, their phone number and then struggles. And then it just kind of like took on a life of its own of our athletes. And I've never been as more proud to be a part of the community and a coach as I have then, all athletic accomplishment aside. But it further highlighted to me how much people are going through, because it is all relative, right? Like, so, and that's one of the more popular things you hear, or more things you hear frequently. People say, "Oh, well, my problems aren't as big as yours," right? Like, who the hell are we to say that yours isn't? Like, and we do that as a way to not deal with them, right? But who am I to complain? You know, my life's so much better than so and so's. Yeah, but it still hurts, right? And it's still not okay. Like, we've become being fine and having like a low level feeling of loneliness or anxiety or depression has become like the new standard, at least here in America. Like that's like, that's okay. That's not that bad. Like, right. It's fucking bad. Like, you know, we shouldn't be fine. Like, that shouldn't be the status quo anymore or the baseline of thing. It should be that we should be on a relentless pursuit to be happy and unapologetic about trying to find that at whatever cost, you know, and that's just not, it's become not the case. And it's sad. And frankly, it's kind of scary. Yeah.
There's a lot of times when I literally, you know, you can kind of probably sense it in my voice sometimes when we talk about, you know, the computer life and technology and things like that, because I just sit here sometimes and go, really, is this what humans were designed to do? Just sit in front of computers for 8 to 10 hours a day and just sort of formulate crap in your mind and type in boxes and all these things. And to me, it's like on a big scope, it really feels like the wrong way to live. And I get kind of angry about it because I know we're going down and the snowball is just kind of getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we're all just intensely like just digging in and firing up our computers and just sitting there instead of hanging out at the booth with people like we did this weekend. And like you're saying, that becomes the you know, the less you do that, the harder it kind of can be. So we, you know, in everything, the less you do it, the more unfamiliar it is. And it becomes a little anxiety, or it's almost like public speaking or something. Hey, we're going to put you out in a booth in front of all these people. And there's the little bit of like, all right, you got to suck it up. But once you get there and all that kind of stuff, you start feeling what it's like to sort of more be alive, I guess. And it's just sort of, because you're right, man. Like everybody, including us, you know, we read all these things in Training Peaks, and we're kind of juggling our own shit sometimes, and it's sometimes I feel like, man, I don't know who I am to be, you know, telling you what to do, right? Because I got my shit all jacked up right now, you know. So it's a weird thing sometimes, but I think it all comes down to just opening up, and it doesn't have to. You know, like even in therapy, I don't think that the therapists are always just like, well, here's your answer. You know, you just kind of talk it through. And sometimes while you're talking it through, that becomes like, it takes some kind of a burden off. And I think it really does, like with training, that sort of process kind of happens over and over as you know, it's sort of like when you're in the shower and you kind of have relaxation or whatever, your thoughts become clearer and you have good ideas. And I think that's why we do it too, is it, we're out on a training ride, you know, if our head's open to the idea. And that's the thing, is you have to be open and to like letting that stuff out, because when you're out running, sometimes you can just kind of heal yourself in many bits, you know, along the way. So I don't know, when it's kind of like life's grind, it's like, you know, make a lot of money, get the thing, retire, all this stuff. And then along the way, you're like, what the hell am I doing? And I think that the parallel there is between just enjoy the sport, like for what it gives you and how it makes you feel, versus always putting the hardest goal up there a lot of times. Because I think if you're free to just be yourself and be your ultimate self and train more and just be better or more consistent with it, you're just going to get better, instead of always trying to mentally will yourself to a fine finish, you know? That's such a weird thing.
Yeah, no, or to put every ounce of and all your stock into being the greatest triathlete ever, because that's what's going to bring the rest of you up.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
That's like a fool's errand.
It is it's huge. Like it's like you ask people all the time, and we sometimes I have to press athletes. I'm like, I think you're taking this way too seriously. If you're getting this upset over, a result of a training session, then things are skewed, right? Because this isn't work that way. Like there's obviously something else going on in your life that you feel like this is all you have, right? And it has to go well to have, like, that's not it. And one of the things I said in my email was that, think how much better off many of us would be if we were as proactive and dedicated and committed to our mental and emotional health as we are our training and our physical health. The serious nature and the study and the time and the racing and the, purchasing, gear and like think about that, right? If you took that same focus and kind of relentless nature of trying to get better at something, and you put that towards the requirement of, or the pursuit of allowing yourself to actually be happy, then what could you do? Like, what could you accomplish? Because what happens so much is we get so comfortable and stuck that we're afraid of what might happen if we do things or don't do certain things, well, things are gone so well. I mean, what are people going to think, if we do this and when we do that, like what's going to happen to this? And like, well, if you're not happy with what you're doing, then the first thing is go find something that makes you happy, right? Like, and your world can get turned upside down and you can make bad decisions or, bad things can happen to you, but it is so much about life is so much, say it's like, life's more about, what happens to you than what happens next and how you choose to respond to it. But it's also, a lot of it's about like, what are you willing to accept and what are you willing to keep taking, and like, and there is a certain amount of, financial reliability you have to have on your job and stuff like that. But a lot of us have become so comfortable with just accepting what life is giving to us instead of being like, all right, well, life can shit on me as much as it needs to, but there at some point you have to be proactive in trying to turn it around, right? And it's become really apparent in society that it's like that we should just accept, right? That life is a big fat pile of flaming shit sometimes, right? And that because what we can do, instead of just recreating our own life of what we want, we can just blame everybody,
it's
right?
So
That's everybody. That's all people do, is blame somebody else or some political party or some religious affiliation or some company or something. All we do is blame everybody else instead of just kind of look in the mirror and be like, all right. Because you know what? It's super easy to blame. It is really, really easy to kind of toss the ball in the other court. It's all life is now. If you know the media, it's just one big freaking tennis match. Toss the ball here, toss it back. It's like tossing blame back and forth, and all the while we're all sitting back, doing the head left to the right, and nothing's getting done, right? But it's all about blaming. But all you really got to do is like look in the mirror and be like, hey, what can I do specifically with my life to make my life better? Because I guarantee you, if you make your own life better, that's going to positively affect someone else's life, right? You'll be able to, elicit, a more positive change or experience with someone else. Like, no one's going to be attracted to you, in your friendship or relationship or whatever it is, or have this like huge, reawakening by listening to someone bitch and moan and complain about everyone else all the time. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What they see is they see people who are willing to do what's required to change their own life, to try to be happier, to overcome obstacles instead of making excuses and blaming people. And that's who we've become. As it's really kind of sad, as a society, we've become. That's what we're focused on, is who can we blame for whatever it is, whatever the popular thing of the week is, who can we blame instead of what can we do in our own small, seemingly insignificant life that can be super significant to ourselves to make a huge, the biggest change we can make is within our own sphere, right? Of circle, like the 3 or 4 people that you're connected, like that's the impact that we can have. And we just it's like we're fucking zombies and robots a lot of the times. Like we're okay with accepting things instead of being just kind of fed up with it. Be like, all right, well, what can I do now? And if it works, doesn't work, but just be fed up with it. I guess what I'm trying to say, in a lot of ways, whatever your thing is, be fed up with it instead of just being okay with so much of what's going on in this world and what's going on with our friends' lives and your family's lives. It's like, this shit's not okay. And it's become okay. If you can't tell, it's fucking pissing me off.
Yeah. I find myself going into that trap a lot where I could be like, well, everything's fucked up right now. I don't have to be, that great. There's a good excuse. I can kind of there's something about that really gives me a little bit of a relief, and I think that what I start doing with that is I spin it as yeah, you're kind of right. It doesn't matter. Just do, without the pressure, live without the pressure of life, right? Try to do that more often without the worry of failing, right? Because, whether it's like our taxes and shit like that, I get all fucking uptight about filling out these forms and all that stuff. And sometimes I'll just be like, well, all right, whatever. I mean, but it becomes, there's certain, people probably all have their thing like that, where it's like, yeah, man, I can't even, it's just weighs on your mind. And so for me, I try to just spin it in this way of well, it doesn't matter, whatever. But, and I've been thinking about this lately because after missing chat, not signing up and all that crap, I've been kind of okay, well, I got to do Wisconsin, and
heard it here first.
But I didn't, I haven't signed up because I actually stepped back and said, all right, look, let's get through this move, get your feet on the ground up there in about a week, see how the things feel. Do I have the right training situations? Am I going to be comfortable with all that? Blah, blah, blah. And then also in my mind, I'm like, I know I can do it. I've done it many times. I don't want to do it the same. That is killing me, man. So for me, it's realigning my body, getting some things going, strength, whatever, and flexibilities. And to me, that's the main thing holding me back. So I'm not going to just sign up because it would be a little boost in my,
It lasts 5 minutes.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And then it become a burden, right? So I want to see how that goes, but I really want to prove to myself, like I'm saying, get fed up with what's been bugging me about my body or whatever, or performance ability, and fix it. Truly get into it and see how that goes. And if I don't race Wisconsin this year, so what? Maybe I'll race Arizona or something. But the point is I have to really step back sometimes and really kind of say, man, don't, because that's part of the problem, right? Is you're saying about buying shit or whatever it is, it becomes this thing. So I've really been trying to really get in a space where especially is helping when I'm moving, I don't need anything, I don't need all this shit anymore.
Yeah.
And it's metaphorical baggage on my mind sometimes too, that I think there's something to it. It's let's simplify our lives and really kind of zone in on what's important. And like you said, get fed up with it and do something about it.
The hardest thing, and this goes for all things, is to stop talking about it and start doing something about it.
Right.
Right. That's again, America's new favorite pastime is I can affect change by creating a really clever quote and putting on Facebook to get a lot of likes. That's how I'm going to change and cause, reform or change agendas or bring awareness to whatever. It's that's not. Everyone's piling in the same place to see the same thing, right? It's to see, that's so-and-so said, or copy and pasting. It's doesn't get us anywhere, right? It's just, it's too easy. It's way too easy for us to pretend that what's I guess the definition of action is now very skewed, right? it's no longer physical lasting action that I'm specifically doing something to change the way that I eat, the way that I live, hydrating, taking care of my body, putting my phone down, all these things that can really, really benefit you as a person. Now it's like, well, I shared this post from the, whatever news network, and salute America. Like I did my dude. Things become too easy, and that's like giving us this false sense of what's considered actionable in life, in all different kinds. And I
none of it's rewarding.
None of it is. And I struggle with this mightily. When you see, and I was awake at 3:30 this morning, and I woke up to pee, and I just couldn't shut my brain off. I mean, like as a father, and unless you've been living under a rock, you see this guy walk in and shoot all these kids at this elementary school, and I'm not a Facebook political person. I'm not going to pile on a political party or whatever it is. Like, a lot of people do. It keeps you up, because all you can do, and sometimes because to me the answer isn't everyone say no answer is simple, right? Like to me, a lot of it does come down to people's mental health and happiness and core values. But you just lay there and you think, what the fuck? Because the one of the hardest things to come to the realization is that I don't know specifically what can I do, right? It's like your brain starts going off and like, what can I do to help? What can I do to impact? What can I do to prevent? What can I do to, Allie had to ask, like, what do we do to keep him safe? Like, well, we're already doing it. But it's always like we always want to do something more, right? And it's not, taking a shot at Republicans or taking a shot at Democrats or taking a shot at so-and-so. It doesn't make anybody, I don't know how it makes somebody feel good, or welcome to America, where this is like, I just want my family to be safe. I want my friends to be safe. I want the people that I love to feel loved. And because to me, that's at the core of what we want, right? It's like, I want Hayden to know that he's loved and cared for. And anytime he's like, hey, I can ask a question, I'm like, always. I don't care what question is, always. Like, if you want to talk or ask a question, just ask it. It keeps me up at night, or I guess kept me up this morning because I couldn't go back to sleep, just thinking about like, what else can we do? What else can I do? And sometimes the answer, I guess sometimes that's the hardest part, right? Is that like, you're already doing it. It's just, it's not, and that's why it's so difficult, I think, because you just try to rack your brain around what more can I do? And I think that's even where myself, like, I have to stop myself sometimes, because, that's why we're such great business partners. You're always like, can slow me down a lot of times. And I'm like, all right, we got to do this. We got to do this.
Not always.
And not always, right? Not always. Sometimes I've been like, dude, where were you? But I'm like, all right, well, we can do this and we can do that. And it's like, but then you're taking valuable time away from the direct impact that you can have, which is under your own roof. Mm-hmm. And so it's a hard thing to juggle. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it shouldn't stop you from trying to continuously think about it, right? Because this always happens. Something happens no matter what we call it or whatever traumatic event it is. And we all vow to do this. And then everybody replaces their Facebook background with this. And then the next time it's changed, nothing happens. And I'm not asking to walk up the stairs, the White House or whatever, the UN or whatever it is, and, make some direct lasting impact of like some law, because the best change you can have is in your own mind and your own heart under your own roof.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest place to start too. We always talk about training. It's like the hardest place to look is in the mirror. It's like, we always want to make excuses, but like the hardest fucking place to look is the mirror.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you look at what's going, I mean, I feel like, we talk about, recovery and stuff a lot here. And it almost feels like, to me, and this is the sad part about it, like you said, what can you do? Everybody wants to like go to the, Capitol and whatever and do these things. But it almost feels like in a sad way that the humanity almost has to hit a little bit of a rock bottom before,
no shit.
you know what I mean? Like we keep all these little things keep happening. It's sort of like, oh man, I went out last night, I did something wrong. And it wasn't enough to kind of really wake you up or whatever. But in the big scope of thing, as you were talking, I pulled up my favorite quote from Bukowski, of course. You begin saving the world, saving one man at a time. All else is grandiose romanticism or politics.
Yeah.
And I totally think that's so Zen to me. And saving one man at a time does start, and you just said it, looking in the mirror. It's like you got to start with yourself, because if you don't have your shit together, you can't expect to be out changing the world unless you have a clarity. And then it's like you and me, we're just doing our thing. We're not trying to change the world. We're just kind of sitting here having therapy with ourselves.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, really, that at the core of it, that's what it is. And we accept that. And, you know, these are just conversations that are sort of like that we probably never would have if we didn't have mics. And it's been, it's one of those things that I always look forward to the podcast, you know, even, you know, like it becomes like this grinder, right? It's like, and we know it's almost like literally, you know, you got to go to a meeting, you know, you got to go therapy. We know we got to do it.
Yep.
And it has this sort of, you know, I have a friend, he's trying to turn his life around right now, and he's like almost 60. He started doing yoga, and he's got this like fire about him now, you know, like I know it's the right thing for me. And if I don't do it now, I'm never going to, you know, I'm going to be in a wheelchair in 10 years or whatever. Yeah. And so he's changing himself, and he realized that he's like little things are starting to happen. Like he's not getting so pissed off in traffic all the time. And, you know, because those are the things, if we can calm our own minds, like you won't kind of push that energy into the world, right? If you're calmer, maybe the next driver is going to get a little bit calmer. And I think that's how this whole thing works. We have to just chill, man. Because like we're trying to like fire everything up to level 11, and it just makes things worse all the time. It really does.
No, and I love it. I love that. I mean, anything Bukowski I love, but it's and I think the word selfish has like somehow gotten a new definition. Like people have become not selfish enough, right? Because no one says no anymore. Everyone's overextended, overcommitted, overworked. There's no time for really anything, right? Like it's because they feel like they have to, they're going to miss out. And like, take care. This is one of the listed out, like a numbered a few things of things to remember for athletes. Like say no. I say no all the damn time. So do you. It's like, no, I don't have time for that. No. Like taking time for yourself is insanely important to do. Like you can't be your best at anything in life unless you yourself are healthy, right? Like make that change first, but it is the hardest. Well, it's 100% the hardest thing to do. And that's like, and I mentioned this quite a few times on the podcast, like when I went to treatment and got in recovery, they called it a selfish program. And while I agree 100% that it is a selfish program, and that in the beginning of recovery and obviously in treatment, like it has to be about you, right? Because you have to put all your energy into everything you're doing to just get yourself better. But once you get yourself better, then you can really start to make an impact, right? A positive impact, because everything we do is impactful, right? Negative and positively, right? Like, you know, I didn't always, you know, affect things negatively back when I drank, but sure did a lot, you know, and now I'm sure I do to some extent, but to a much lesser degree, right? Mm-hmm. But you have to work on yourself to be able to do that. And no one should ever, you know, belittle you for, it's just like we in one breath, we say, you know, you only live once, you know, YOLO, you only live once. Go out there and do that, and you know, go skydive and go do this and do that. You only live once. Do this. On the other hand, we also, you know, hear this everywhere you see. I got too much to do. I got too many responsibilities. I got too much. I can't do this because of work. We make excuses. Because usually, I mean, that's what they are. Their excuses for not doing something is, I just don't want to, right? I don't want to put in the work to do whatever it is. And that's why people continuously are looking for, sometimes triathlon and training to quiet the demons, or they're popping too many pills, or they're drinking too much, or there's because it's easy to do. Like we can just, grab a bottle and take it down. We can take a few extra, prescription pills and take it down. It's like, that's easy. It's like what happens when you are at your rawest. That's when you can because that's when things start to come up. But then again, we don't really want things to come up anymore. We want them to be because it's not fun. It's scary. It's emotional, and that's just, it's a really weird and difficult time, I think, to be in. For a lot of people, it's coming off being in isolation and dealing with things, and how much people took up, the isolation and the loneliness of how to deal with things, and what was easy to kind of get to. But let's not keep using that phrase as an excuse, right? Oh, this is the world we live in, or, that's not okay, right? Like if it's not the world you want to live in, then, yes, we live on the same planet, but we all have our own little world. And if that's not the little world you like, then fucking do something about it. Or do the best you can. It's just, it's the constant excuses of, well, this is what we have, that's like, when did we become like this layover and take it human race of, well, I guess just that's the card we're going to be dealt. Yeah. Dealt them, fold it, get a new fucking deck, right? Get back and go do something with it, and stop holding your cards for forever, right? Yeah. It's like don't take a dead hand and all the way to the end, and keep putting your money in, and all right, what do you have? Well, I have nothing. Yeah. Oh, well, you should have folded. That's the card that was dealt. No, just we have to we have to fight more for, not just for seriously, the amount of anger and emotion that so many people have over so many things. And I have them too. It's like, if we could just take an ounce of the anger and fed upness you see on Facebook or any social media platform and put that on ourselves for getting things right. Hello, whoops. I used to joke all the time when I first got sober. I was like, listen, I can be dedicated to this because I was super dedicated to drinking every day of my life for 3 or 4 years. I never missed a day. If I can do that, I can certainly do this. And it's just, I don't know. I just want us to be better. And it's a human thing. It's not a political thing. This is the most political podcast I've ever done in my life. Probably. Yeah, it's not even political. We should be better. We deserve better. You deserve better as an individual, to be happier, to be healthier, to put yourself first, to do these things, not just to be, a freaking speed bump, that life goes over, and to extent life does happen to you. And there's a lot of things you can't control that happens around you, or that directly impacts you, but you can respond in a certain way. You can be resilient. You can, take charge to make something impactful, or just to, say a kind word to someone that you don't know. It's baffling to me that, wow, kind of much we've regressed as a culture that was so extroverted and outgoing in person, and connecting with people that are meant to hug and shake hands and high five and make eye contact and do whatever, to not being that way. Yeah. Right. And I've never heard, even this podcast we do, over mics, but you and I get to sit in a room together, I've never sat down and had a cup of coffee, or gone out and met a group of friends at a restaurant, or gone to a race, or put on a camp where I haven't felt, yes, exhausted, because it's just exhausting, but also so mentally and emotionally energized and happier, right? It all comes down to so many of those things. And we need to do better, and we deserve better.
Mm-hmm. I like what you said there about clinging to a bad hand that you're dealt, and because it's familiar, it's so easy to do, because even if it's a shitty situation, but it's familiar, it's comfortable. So that's the hard part, right? Breaking away from something that's a habit that, even though we know it's not our best habit, it's hard to put the deck back and ask for a new hand, or create a new hand or something like that. And, being exhausted, from this weekend, but that's the thing, is I don't think we really understand that we're supposed to be exhausted. but we're exhausted in the wrong ways now mentally. Like you're saying, my mind was racing. My mind is just wired. My body is so tired, but I can't sleep because I'm so wired. That's what, that's what comes in, putting in a good day's of work. That's what, positive training with clear head and good fuel. You should be tired after 4 or 5 hour rides. And we're all like, man, I don't want to be this, or doing an Ironman. You're going to be exhausted. And then you're going to sleep good. Well, maybe not that night, but
yeah, definitely
in
not
theory,
that
but you know what I'm saying is like, I think we have this thing, like everything's easy now in life. We should never be tired. We should never be emotional. And I talk about emotions. I always talk about that, race morning, the anxiety of the race and the nerves and all that stuff. And like you said about channeling, your ability to drink every day into something else. And that's the secret to life, is just because we all have that energy. It's just going to a lot of times it goes to unproductive places. So in the morning, if you're nervous, and part of the trick of racing well is to channel that anxiety into fuel and confidence. And, you always hear about that. Like, what's the scariest thing for most people is public speaking. And you always hear that once people can get over that hump, they can sort of spin those nerves into a great presentation because they just let it flow. And how do you do that? I think that it's every single day we work out, we can probably do that better. Letting go of shit that's bugging you or, on your mind that saps energy, and turn it into positive energy to let your body flow.
And you got to keep working at it. It's not going to happen overnight. Yeah. It's not going to happen in 2 weeks. And even when it does, you have to keep working at it.
It's easy. Yeah. That's our mantra now. It's like, how can we make this easier?
Shorter time.
How can we get a program on this computer that'll save me 2 hours or whatever? It's like what? Now you don't know how to do arithmetic.
Yeah. It's like the easiest things in the world. Like you never really get that much from, right? It's the hard things in life that you learn, you learn from your mistakes and you learn from the hard things. But yeah, we want everything easier, or just it's a quick reversal. And I think it's not that easy. Nothing is. It takes actual work and from all of us, and especially on ourselves. It can't be. It's on a continuum. It's not something that has an expiration date. Like you're working on yourself from mentally and emotionally and physically. It's never finished, right? It's like and we can relate to this because that's what life is like at coaches. It's like I was texting with an athlete yesterday because we had so many just unbelievable performances, and this one athlete did not have a good day, and I can't figure out why. And I was texting them. They said, oh, it was really hard to see all these people have these amazing race, and I'm just so frustrated with my bike ride. My swim and my run was great. And I was like, well, if it makes you feel any better, your bike ride is the only one I'm thinking about. Because you have these great races. You don't keep thinking about them because they're done. You think about what went wrong. And that's what coaching is. Like, you don't think about, why did everything go great? You're like, oh, they went great. But then you always find out the one that didn't, that didn't go well. That's when you think about, or that's the one that keeps you up at night, and just the trajectory that athletes have. No one's ever done, right? No one's ever finished. No one hits a race like, all right, well, I went sub 5 for the first time. I'm good. I'm probably going to do triathlon for the next 4 or 5 years, but I'm fine. I'm not getting any better.
Right.
It's like, no one says that. They're like, once I think I can get away faster. How are we going to do, how are we going to do this next time? Let's go ahead and plan out 2023 I'm like, wait a minute. Let's slow down for just a second. You can soak it in for a week, but that's it. We're so relentless in so many areas of our life, which proves that we have that in us, right? To never be satisfied, to be relentless, to be committed, to be motivated, to put ourselves first. If you're training and you're racing, you've shown yourself you have that ability. So use those same strengths and characteristics in the rest of your life, because you've shown, obviously, you can overcome obstacles, you can do hard things, you can be resilient, you can be committed, you can never be satisfied. And then other areas of life, you're like, oh, that's okay. I'm just fine, or I'll just take it. That's all. And I was dealt. Wait a minute. What? Like that? You in one of the most important things of your life, which for a lot of people is triathlon and racing and their fitness, like use that same, again, resiliency and urgency to take you other places that are frankly a hell of a lot more important than, you taking 3 minutes off your 70.3 time, right? But the energy and the effort we can put into that a lot of times is to be honest with you, it's misplaced, and the amount of obsession and time and sacrifice. Like, if you're going to make sacrifices, make them in your personal life, right? To make life better, because a happy athlete is a fast athlete, and it doesn't go in the other way around. It doesn't go a fast athlete makes a happy athlete, it doesn't work that way. And we have to just kind of have that, we have to shift the thinking, in order to be happy.
Mm-hmm. And it's about putting yourself in those situations and experiencing it and getting through it and figuring things out. We talk about post-race reports or whatever, and just kind of what did you learn out there? I was talking to an athlete this weekend after the race, and they were talking about how crowded it was on the bike course and how dicey it was around aid stations and things like that. And not over crazy, but I just said, hey man, that's part of racing. It's the same within the swim, bumping into people or whatever. You train, you got your own lane, you're out riding by yourself, whatever. But when you get that, that's part of the experience of racing, is that you have to figure out how to negotiate or navigate those situations. And I think we got to put ourselves, the more you expose yourself to it, the more you learn and the more comfortable you are. And everything about what you're saying regarding getting better as a person is the same way. You just have to, I was talking about running hills a lot. I run them all the time, and I just see a hill now. I don't go, oh shit, there's a hill.
Turn around. You
just get familiar, and then you get more comfortable at dealing with it and better at dealing with things, and, taking the edge off of all the stress.
Yeah. And we'll close with this. Speaking of your hill comment, I headed out to the Greenway today after I dropped Hayden off at school to do some
repeats.
Some hill work. Boy. Not over
battery.
Not
no,
a battery.
You got to create your own story.
Yeah, I can't use yours.
Something better.
It's definitely not better, or it wasn't as steep. I actually miscalculated. But you haven't run this way much. But when you park at the sculpture little area water stop at the Greenway, I went left, and they got that little, it's a slight longer.
It's a long one.
It's a long one. But anyway, I was doing a hard effort up, and then I'd go down the other side that's shorter but steeper. And then I'd go up it and then chill on the way down, turn around, go back up again on the short steep, and then cool on the way down. So I did that 5 times just to kind of say, not all out, just strength work, form, good running economy. And as I was coming up on the other side of the short side, they say an almost side, hit the top and looked down, and there was a group about 3 people, and they were it's because you can see a good ways on the top, looking back towards all the warehouses and stuff, and they all ran and they were running. I'm like, man, they're moving pretty good, moving. U-turn at the base of the hill and made it turn right back around and went the other direction.
Oh, really?
And I was like, what? Embrace it. Like, you stop turning around. Like, oh, it's going to affect my pace, and I'm not going to have the pace I want on Strava. People think I'm getting slow.
Yeah.
And then I'll have to say in my Strava comments, ran hilly route today, pace affected. Like, nobody gives a fuck. It's good. It's all for you. It's all for us.
I do my bike repeats on that short hill. That's right.
Oof, that's a good one, man. It's a nice little pincher.
Because they got the road there. Mm-hmm. So I just go up and down that road 20 times.
Yeah, it's a great.
It's a great
little spot.
People walk through and run through, and then I see him like 3 times, and I'm like, I haven't moved.
What's he doing?
I'm just doing this.
What's he doing? There's that
but
guy
I just,
again.
I don't like greenways riding, but I don't like riding on roads around here either. So that's just sort of what I've kind of come to.
You figure out a way to make it work with what you figure out to play the hand you were dealt.
Yep.
You won with a pair of 3s. We hope you won with a pair of 3s too. We hope you enjoyed today. Not a lot of triathlon, but still hopefully important. Apologies to the kids for the F-bombs, but just a little passionate today. And we're passionate because we love you. So hope you enjoyed today. We will pre-record next Monday's podcast tomorrow. So if we forget tomorrow, have a great Memorial Day weekend. As always, go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike, he's always available, CrushingIron@gmail.com. And if you need anything from me specifically, you can get a hold of me, c26coach@gmail.com.
All right. Anything else? You got any funny anecdotes to end it with?
I don't have anything funny today.
Okay, good.
Well, I will say this for a visual, that, you know, I'm not an extrovert at all, but Hayden has become like a dancer.
Oh, God.
So watching some kind of, I think we were watching some show a few weeks ago,
The Masked
maybe 2
Dancer?
or 3 weeks ago. No, not like that. And a commercial comes on and it was No Diggity.
Oh, and he started getting it?
He got up off the couch and started like jamming to it, like with some legit moves. And I was crying. I was laughing sort of. I was like, whose child are you? Because that is not something. So now he like last night, again, watching a show with him, he comes on the ad, he gets up, just starts, jamming. And I'm like, what? So yeah, No Diggity. And then he was singing it yesterday in the shower.
I got to say, I think dancing is the ultimate form of free body flow.
for sure.
You know what I mean? Like
for some of us, it doesn't feel very free, but
yeah, but I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes I go over to this new, what's that grocery you go to?
You go to the club?
No, the new grocery store.
The new Publix.
Publix.
Yeah.
I always want to call it Logley or Kroger. I don't know why, but Publix, yeah. And sometimes they got some good music in there, and sometimes I'm just feeling good.
Oh, you're feeling good in the grocery
cart
store?
along, and I kind of start throwing a little bit of a dance
You
move
a little shoulder bump
with the cart. And I'm like, whoa, calm down, dude. I was rein it in. But then I'm thinking, I just feel really good.
Let it flow, man. Let it flow.
Go out and
in
dance.
the grocery store.
Dance the night away. That's a little Van Halen for
We're
you.
showing our age, dancing, feeling it on aisle 7, Mike Tarrolly.
Aisle 7, just grabbing the shit and throwing it in the cart. Like, Impractical Jokers dancing around.
That's right.
They're going to look at me like, what's this guy?
Someone busted a move on aisle 7. Someone busted a move on aisle 7.
Busted a move.
Clean up, please.
Drop the ketchup.
Drop the ketchup.
Yeah.
All right, well.
I like that. No diggity.
Yeah, he likes it. We hope you like this podcast. We'll see you next time.
All right. See you guys.